All right, it's our Monday recap for the Comedy Accelerator workshop that happened this weekend, February 7th, 2026. We met outside on the back patio performance area at the Creek and Cave, downtown Austin, which was interesting. The weather was nice, a little sunny, but we found shade. It won't stay that way long in Texas, but for this week it was good. And so we got set up out there. Generally, stand-up doesn't work great in outdoor spaces because the sound doesn't gather and collect. It tends to disappear up into the air, which means the laughs don't coalesce. The audience doesn't sort of help each other laugh as much, which happens really well in a small room. And the comics can't hear the laughter, so it's not very satisfying. But they have a nice stage out there, so we use that area, and as we go forward, we'll probably use it more, depending on what's going on inside the club. During the career part of the workshop, we talked about the difference between trying to plan out a career and just letting a career happen, which most people choose the second thing. They're struggling to get good material together, to get on good stages, to have fun, to sort of learn the art and develop. They don't really think about specific ladders up towards different jobs and bigger entertainment. But I encourage people to do that because it allows you to prepare now for what job you want. Like, for example, me being a writer, I essentially prepared to be a writer for most of my life. I really got interested in writing very early, and I took tons of classes all the way through high school, college, and grad school in writing and reading. So I was actually an English undergrad, English/journalism. So I've done every kind of writing pretty much imaginable professionally, all the way from journalism to ad copy to stand-up to talk show writing. And I like it. I'm obsessive as a writer. It's what I do most days. I'll spend a couple of hours writing. Sometimes it's comedy, sometimes it's academics or intellectual stuff. Or marketing for my job. So I've done it so much that I've really developed a mechanical muscle to the point where I can write really fast and pretty on target. So it'd be hard for somebody without that kind of background to compete with me. And that's really what happens in Hollywood. You have a lot of people that are very specialized in something they got interested in very early, and they got very good at it. They may not be good at a massive range of things in entertainment, but that one vertical, that one silo, they're very good at. And that's who you're competing with. So you need to start thinking about kind of early on, what are your potential silos? What are things that you might want to do outside of just stand-up? And even within stand-up, it's like, do you want to be good at hardcore stand-up, which brings you to this particular market? Or do you want to be more of a generalist? Do you want to be a specialized target market, like a Christian comic? Do you want to be a cruise ship comic? Because cruise ship comedy is very different than club comedy. It's gotten closer in the last few years because cruise ships have actually started to build comedy clubs on the ship itself. When I was doing it, most of the time it was in very big, large theaters, up to 1,000 people, which is a very different type of comedy as well. Not one that my comedy is well suited for because I'm fairly small. I'm not a big character. I'm not big visual. But if I wanted to do that, I would add a lot more of that stuff in. And I did a little bit as I went because trying to, make sure those audiences laugh. Next, we moved and talked about what we try to do every week, some kind of feature on a pro comic, especially from Austin. And probably the most successful guy out of Austin who started as a stand-up, I think he started in Dallas and then was here for a long time, was Johnny Hardwick. And Johnny was a great stand-up, very funny, very quirky, a lot of one-liners, very clever, and very likable. And he turned that into a job on King of the Hill, which I was watching an interview with him, and he said he started out as a writer, but almost instantly became the voice of Dale. And he did that for well over a decade. I think even through the sort of the rebirths and the reboots of that show. Johnny was great and probably the most successful comic who moved into Hollywood from Austin. And he was a writer and producer on that show. and an actor. So he got double paid for a long time. So Johnny made a lot of money doing that. He had a weird ending. He has I'll put the URLs in the show notes. But he came back and and I started doing a podcast, and Johnny was always kind of out there, and I'm not sure what happened exactly, but yeah, he died in his 50s, and the cause of death was never really established. There are dark paths in entertainment. I'm not sure whether that's what happened to Johnny or not, but it's always something to think about. Entertainment success doesn't always equal life happiness. So you need to think about that stuff too as you start to build your way through a career. Finally, I talked about my producer's brain because I've done stand-up production and comedy production for so long. A lot of times when I do the workshop or when I'm talking with people in the workshop or even on the local scene, I look at people as assets and deficits or liabilities. Like, what do you have when I talk to you or I see you do stand-up that I think could make money? And that doesn't mean money for me, but that means money for you if it could be plugged into something existing already in entertainment. Now, I do also look at people as developable entities because I like to make deals with comics. Sometimes those are money deals. Sometimes they're just, kind of lazy help. But the idea that I do with the Comedy Accelerator is one section of it's a Hollywood process applied to stand-up comedy development. Can you take a stand-up who does a few things really well or is attached very closely to a market that has money in it, and can you accelerate that stuff? And so you can get them in front of that audience in a much bigger way in theaters and with a much bigger audience quicker. And if that happens, then I don't turn into a manager, although I maybe be a creative manager in some ways. I'm more about profit sharing on specific things that you build together and co-create. That way you own you. There's no, that you're tied to somebody like a manager or an agency when you develop something. It's more about the project itself. Anyway, it's something to think about. And producer brain is great to have. My producer brain works all the time and always has, which has always kind of made me a little weird in Austin because people, I don't think professionalize the way that I do as often here in Austin. Then we broke into our 4-person writing staffs. Each person gets 5 minutes to run a piece of script. Everybody else is supposed to function as an actual writing staff, which means you'll get fired if you don't give a bunch of ideas that are high quality, very fast, and you don't participate. So we're trying to practice that a little bit. I also want people to practice doing formal networking with each other because it's, again, one of those things that some comics do it really well. But if you don't do it well, if you don't do networking, which means being a relationship, but also having a professional part of that relationship, that it's not weird for you to ask for help or for offer help professionally to somebody. And that's it's a skill. It's something you have to learn how to network and have a interpersonal real relationship with somebody. So I ask people to practice that. And again, sort of get names, remember everybody's names, record it in some way, find each other's social media and connect outside of the workshop so that you can actually have a strong grapevine or network that you can activate if you need it. And everybody needs it. Also, I wanted somebody in the 4-person group to function as the head writer. Again, getting some micro experience with the idea that you're there to organize the writing, which means you make sure everybody's is participating. Everybody gets a turn. If somebody's not talking, you grab them and give them a turn. Say, hey, what do you think? And keep everything flowing so that it's useful. Finally, we moved to the last hour with the instant fix performances, where people get up and do a minute. And as soon as they do something that is going off the rails a little bit or isn't developed enough, I stop them working as like a director and producer, and I make suggestions, have them reset and redo it, which I think has worked pretty well. We'll do some variety of that, and once people are done, everybody else jumps in too. But I'm trying to keep it lively and energetic and get a lot of learning quickly. So that's worked pretty well so far. The workshoppers who went up, I think there were 12. Tom is doing stuff about his Irish background, and he's writing a lot better jokes, a lot tighter. And everybody has something like that. And what I typically do is pick something out what you're doing and try to, again, amplify it. Whether that's in your writing, okay, do you need better punches, better tags, better act outs? In your performance, like, are you animating? Are you actually doing act outs? Or are you kind of muted? Your character, like, are you likable? Is your character delible? Like, can you see it? Is it a character that works well for comedy? Not all characters do, and some characters are great. Like Julian is one of the things he's working on. He's this kind of awkward, introverted, slow-talking character, and it works pretty well, but it's got to be amplified up into stand-up, which means people find it quirky and amusing just on its own. So, or in your communication, like, do you connect well to the audience? Do we actually feel you're there, you're present, and you're connecting? There's other things too. I have a big collection of things that I look at when I'm sort of analyzing stand-up or trying to improve stand-up. So everybody went through stuff, and then one last thing. Before we met, we met at 2 o'clock before the 3 o'clock workshop started at Shauner's Saloon on Congress down here in Austin, Texas, to meet up with Cup, is his nickname, Scotty Gassner's friend who owns the Shauner's Saloon. Really good guy, seems like really interested in sort of, really open and interested in helping us do something there. So we had an hour or 45 minutes meeting or so about producing. We talked about who's going to be the executive producer, which is basically the person that organizes the entire show and just makes sure all the other producers are doing their jobs. We talked about promoting a promoter producer who's helping to put all the promotion together, and that can mean graphics, marketing, everything. And creative producers, like, we got to come up with something creative that drives this show. So we're going to start working on that this week. We have, I think, let's see, 5, 10, about 15 people who want to get involved in the producing. And everybody will be involved at different levels, and all the political stuff that happens in groups will instantly start to happen. Which I try to make sure everybody understands, that when you get a title, it doesn't mean you need to think about this as this is now an elevated position. It's more about you're taking on the responsibility of making sure that job is done. And if you can't do it all the way, bring in other people. So I'm going to try to avoid some of the political stuff, which I promise you will happen, because even the show itself is going to be a limited amount of performance space and performance time. And people will have to start competing for it in some ways. And sometimes people will get something and sometimes they won't. And so it'll create resentments. And then people will start talking about each other. It's crazy the way stand-up communities splinter off into these little political factions. And I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible, because this is about everybody getting an opportunity. You can't always get every opportunity, but getting the opportunities you want and developing. And also, you have to put on a really great show. If this is going to be attached to the Comedy Accelerator brand, and we're going to do it every week, or even more, twice a week, whatever, it doesn't matter to me, just how the effort people want to put out, then it's got to be good. Like, the show has to be good. When people come to this show, I want them leaving going, wow, that was really good. That was fun. I do not want a cringe show at all. And I've seen too many cringe shows in Austin. I have no interest in that whatsoever. So we're going to do the work to try to make it creative, make it well run, make sure the audience gets something out of it, and make sure all the performers get something out of it. So that way we'll, again, sort of fulfill the function of the Comedy Accelerator, which is to make stand-up higher quality in Austin, to help people develop more quickly in Austin in ways that they maybe wouldn't on their own, and have fun, and hopefully turn this into money, because that's always the goal in professional comedy. No matter how artful you are, art plus money is always better. Just ask Basquiat, or one of those guys who made so much money from street art. Did he make money? I think he did, even while he was alive. Okay, so that's it. That's for the week. We will be back next weekend and we're going to start the saloon show in 2 weeks. So we'll keep producing all week long on that. And there you go.